We celebrate today the first Friday of the month, a day when customarily we commemorate and jubilate over the fact that God has a personal love for each one of us as revealed in the heart of His Son, Jesus. And it is also our parish feast. We celebrate St. John Vianney, a man who was moved with compassion when he looked upon the people of his village. And of course, he was stern and he lived out, so to say, his tough love, but in a very gentle way. There is one thing that comes to my mind when I think of St. John Vianney as a pastor, as a man filled with pastoral love and zeal, a man wanting to draw people to Christ. He is allotted the parish of ours, a little village. You could think of it like being sent to Siberia. Nobody wanted to go there, and everyone knew that was more than a challenge, a real punishment for John Vianney. The authorities thought that because he was no good, let's send him there. After all, it's a difficult parish. It doesn't matter if he doesn't succeed. And as he is trying to find his way to this little village of ours, he sees a little boy and says, "Can you show me the way to the little village of ours?" And the little boy, 10 or 12, says, "I'll show you the way to ours." And he leads him by the hand, goes over the hill and says, "That is the village of ours." And John Vianney says something very poignant. He turns to the boy and responds, "Son, you showed me the way to ours, the little village. I'll show you the way to heaven." If you Google St. John Vianney images, you will find a little statue like this, pointing to the heavens and with his hand on the shoulder of the little kid. Now, that's a disciple who makes disciples. And what does he do? He shows people the way to heaven, drawing people to Christ, who is the way, the truth, and the life. And that is what we are all called to be. And that is something we at St. John Vianney aspire to be, a disciple making disciples, a parish community of disciples making disciples. It may be that we come for Mass and receive communion. And what are we doing by that? Participating in the Eucharist, we pray that we may go out as disciples making disciples. Some of us come out and proclaim the word like you did, or others lead the rosary. And what do we do by that? We exercise that call to become a disciple, making disciples. In a little while, you will find people coming up, receiving communion, and also receiving host in a pyx to take home to the sick or to the hospital. And what are they doing? They are disciples making disciples. When you meet someone who is hurting and try to help them on their journey of grief, you are a disciple making disciple. When you help a family that is struggling with their child or with their elderly parent, you are a disciple making a disciple. And we can't do what we do unless we have that pastoral heart, a heart that is filled with compassion. And by the way, that is code. Whenever you hear that his heart was filled with compassion, that is God in his fullness. And that is why he would tell Moses, My heart is filled with compassion for my people as they hurt. Go, tell Pharaoh to let my people go. And Jesus is an embodiment of this heart of the Father that is filled with compassion. And by our baptismal calling, all of us are called to share in this, allowing ourselves to be filled with compassion for the other. Remember, God doesn't call me to be a priest for myself. It's always for the other. God doesn't call you to be a Christian for yourself. It's always for the other. And incidentally, it was St. Augustine who said of his own priesthood, with you, I'm a Christian. For you, I'm a priest. And so you could turn that statement around and say, with you, I'm a Christian. For you, I am a disciple. And so as St. John Vianney was a disciple who made disciples by the droves, by the thousands and thousands, may you and I, who look to the Sacred Heart today, be filled with that compassion that the Lord has for His people and continue to be disciples, making disciples. That's who we are, and that's what we do. Disciples making disciples. And we have here a little relic of this disciple, St. John Maria Vianney, who made disciples.